Hi everyone. I'm coming to you pre-recorded from a random child's bedroom. But anyway, I'm sure Lance in the present has thanked you already, but Lance in the past also thanks you for coming to this once once in a lifetime, no, first of its kind, um, yeah, book tour. Like for a book I wrote some years ago called Mirror Box. It's the first thing that I wrote that I'm really proud of, and yeah, I just wanted to share it here with all of you in big. With my eyes shut and air passing slowly through my nostrils, I allowed my thoughts to wander in silence. I wouldn't permit worldly cares to interrupt the free flow of ideas and images. My mind was moving back and forth, forging the trail between past and present, when a much older thought came to mind. It was a memory I hadn't experienced in years, and it burst forward quite suddenly, like a great reservoir of air breaking through the lake bed and rising to the surface. When I was in third or fourth grade, my mother sent me on a camping holiday with my cousin's family. I'd spent time with them on a few previous occasions, Christmases mostly, and I didn't especially enjoy the experiences. They were the type of family that talked about their day every night at the dinner table. They sang together during car trips. They comforted each other when they were sad and congratulated each other when they did well. So I didn't fit into their perfect circle. So they always left me with the impression that I was doing something wrong. Of course, when we returned from an outing, the conversations were always, "How was Orson?" "Oh, perfect. He had a great time. Isn't that right, Orson?" And I gave a placating nod of agreement. Orson's the name of the protagonist, by the way. During this particular trip, we drove into a high, thickly forested mountain range to our chosen campsite. The lake was crystalline. It cast a perfect reflection in all angles like a mirror that never collected dust. Clouds of insect life were constantly bouncing over the lake's surface, and healthy, big-mouthed fish would leap from the water to snatch them from the air. At one end, there was a large beach of smooth pebbles, but along most of the lake the pine trees led up to the water's edge. Inside the forest, one heard the scurrying of rodents and the thud of heavy fallen pine cones. As you walked by a bush, there would often be a mysterious rustle from within. There were 3 children in this family, 2 boys that were a few years older than me, and a girl that was a few years younger. They had brought 2 tins on this trip. We put on weatherproof coats and filled the front pockets with a water bottle and a flashlight each. Quietly, one boy unzipped the door. We stealthily tiptoed away from the campsite and into the dark forest. As the floor crunched beneath us, there were owls hooting and bats fluttering above. Even through the thick canopy of trees, the starscape glimmered brightly. I kept my flashlight off and relied on my night sight, while the others marched ahead of me, keeping their lights on. Our destination was the lake, only 15 minutes from the tents. None of us had the foolishness or wilderness savvy to do deep exploration by night. When we arrived, the other 2 sat on the dirt by the lakeside, while I leaned against a tree a few feet away. The reflected mountains were now a smooth black surface, but the starry constellations were reflected just in front of us. I remembered the distinct feeling of divine grandeur as I watched the universe shine beneath me and wondered if our universe were similarly a reflection at God's feet. The other boys watched and chatted for a short time and then pulled me away from the lake and towards the campfire. Again, they were a short distance ahead of me, and the oldest boy whistled softly. As I passed a bush, a sudden disturbing rustle came from within, and I jumped away, dropping the flashlight that was in my pocket. I froze and watched the plant with mute horror, but it didn't make another noise. Gradually, I leaned over to recover the light when a hiss shot forward, striking me in the hand like a pair of darts. Only then did I see the black form of a 2-foot snake slither away. By the way, the man is a dentist, not a statistician. This was the information running through his mind and has only an approximate bearing on the reality. For the most part, I'm trying to illustrate a point. Firstly, he concluded that I probably wasn't poisoned. The chances that the snake wasn't venomous or didn't poison me were better than a coin toss. Secondly, if I were poisoned, he concluded that I very probably wouldn't make it. My chances of surviving all the way to the hospital and receiving effective treatment hovered around 10%. If I was poisoned and we stayed at the campsite, my chances for survival were still about 5%. So, given the probable futility of that journey, compounded by its danger, annoyance, and the lower value of my life versus his children, he decided that it was better not to go. This decision weighed heavily on him that night. Every time I looked over, I could see his eyes pointed at the ceiling and his lips feebly mouthing an explanation. The mother and daughter on the other side of me didn't hear the scream or discussion, and they slept soundly. I, however, was clutching my wrist. I had muscle spasms across my arm, my torso, my legs, as my nerves ignited like matchsticks. The worst had become a reality. I was poisoned. My timidity around these people kept me silent, and I bore the pain of death without complaint. Outer screams became inner screams. Whitewater torrents became dew on a window pane. Even at that age, I sensed what had happened in the mind of that man, and I understood, then and there, that we must all face our deaths silently and alone. You can't really take anyone with you, nor can you expect sympathy. That's exactly what I did between him and his wife that night. Needless to say, I never went camping with them again. Nor did our family speak to them again, and my mother even wanted to prosecute, but never went through with it. After a few days of bed rest, I returned to health. The doctors told me I should have died, but a natural resistance to the poison saved my life. I also had the benefit of immunity because my system recognized the venom and could fight it much more easily.